The Jungle Book is a collection of stories by the writer Rudyard Kipling. Kipling was born of English parents in Bombay in 1865. He lived in India until he was 6, when his parents sent him to England to receive a proper education. In 1877, his father found him a job as assistant editor of a local newspaper in Lahore, Pakistan. Thanks to this position, he had the chance to spend some time in India, where he started developing the main themes of his works, such as the relationship between the white colonizers and the natives, and the traditions of the Indian civilization. Between 1889 and 1891, after having traveled across Myanmar, China, Japan, Australia, and the United States, he settled in London, where he became more and more popular in the literary world. Then he moved to the United States, in Vermont, where he started writing children's stories, above all The Jungle Book in 1894 and the second Jungle Book in 1895. Later, he moved back to England in Devon with his family. During this period, he took several annual trips to Africa, where he collected some ideas and material for his stories. In the 20th century, the writer reached the peak of his success and received, in 1907, when he was only 41, the Nobel Prize in Literature for The Jungle Book. He died in 1936, and his ashes are now buried in Westminster Abbey, in London. The Jungle Book and the Second Jungle Book are two collections of stories about the adventures of Mowgli and other kids or animals, such as the Child Toomai, the mongoose Rikki Tikki Tavi, and so on. The most famous episodes are, of course, the 8 that refer to Mowgli, a child who is found alone in the jungle and is raised by the wolf Rocca under the protection of the alpha wolf Akela. The bear Baloo and the fearsome panther Bagheera teach him how to hunt and to respect the law of the jungle, the highest law that regulates the life of all the jungle's inhabitants. Since his first days in the pack, Mowgli finds a bitter enemy in the tiger Shere Khan, determined to do everything in its power to kill him. After having faced him once, Mowgli is forced to leave the pack to go to the human village, where he is welcomed by a woman called Meswa. There, he tries to learn human habits and to fit in, but Shere Khan keeps looking for him, and the two fight one more time. Thanks to Akela's and his wolf brother's help, Mowgli kills the tiger, but being accused of sorcery, he is forced to leave the village. Once he's back in the jungle, he is welcomed as a chief, and his adventures with Baloo, Bagheera, the python Kaa, the elephant Hathi, and the pack continue for several years. Mowgli's last story talks about the boy's decision to leave the jungle for good, to move in a human village with Meswa, finally becoming an adult. This is one of the symbolisms of these works, which represent, in a sort of fairy tale, the transition from childhood to adulthood, through the experience of fear and affection, and a sense of incompleteness and self-research that are typical of the teenage years. In fact, these are the feelings that Mowgli has to cope with in his last story, that ends with the rational decision to leave the jungle to live in the human village, where he truly belongs. These collections are also important to understand Kipling's thought and ideology, since they refer to the relationship between Western countries and India, and have made the writer one of the leading figures in the literature of the imperialism and the Britannic colonialism of the 19th century. Kipling is often seen as one of the greatest supporters of the Pax Britannica of the Anglo-Saxons, who had the duty to civilize those people considered as their inferiors. Despite this, his tales about the jungle, which are a metaphor for the human society, underline the importance of moral principles and rules of conduct. In fact, they must give everyone the possibility to express their capacities to the fullest, and they're essential for the survival of any kind of group. Mowgli's adventures became famous especially thanks to the 1967 animated feature film by Disney. The film adaptation features also some new elements and catchy songs that have become part of our culture. As for the characters, the creators took inspiration from several images and pictures from the book, drawn by Kipling himself or by his father. In 2016, Jon Favreau directed another adaptation of the two works. The film includes some episodes of the story about the man cub, but includes also some references to the cartoon, especially in the soundtrack. For example, the song The Bare Necessities is perfectly recognizable, although the second Italian version changes a bit from Disney's one. Concerning the plot, in the film there is of course the rivalry between Shere Khan and Mowgli, who, at the end, kills the tiger using the red flower, the jungle name for fire. Unfortunately, the jungle burst into flames, and only the ancient and wise elephants, led by Athi, manage to solve the situation, since they have the power to create and destroy. Moreover, we can find the episode of the Great Drought that forces the animals to declare the water truce, a truce that forbids everyone from hunting near the Peace Rock, the only source of water. Obviously, the main characters are basically still the same, including Bagheera, Baloo and the Python Car, although some changes are made compared to the books. For instance, while in Kipling's work Baloo teaches Mowgli how to live in the jungle since his childhood, in the movie the two of them meet by chance and start to collaborate, helping each other and becoming friends. In the books, Kaa helps Bagheera and Baloo rescue the child from the monkeys, also called Bandolog, becoming one of his best friends, so it is basically a good character. On the contrary, in the film, the focus is on its devious personality and its power to hypnotize creatures before devouring them. Furthermore, both in the cartoon and in the last movie, the monkeys have a king called King Louis, which is completely absent in the book. In fact, in the pages they are described as unreliable, with no leader or law. In the end, the book's finale is really different from the movie's one. In the first, Mowgli decides to go back to the human village, while in the second, he remains with his friend in the jungle, where he is now safe. In realizing the movie, the director had to face a big difficulty: the nature of the characters. In fact, the only flesh and blood character on screen is Neil Sethi, who plays Mowgli, while the other protagonists were created using extras, then animating them and giving them the voices of actors such as Bill Murray, Ben Kingsley, Idris Elba, Scarlett Johansson and Lupita Nyong'o in the original version, dubbed in the Italian version by Neri Marcorè, Tony Servillo, Giancarlo Magalli, Giovanna Mezzogiorno and Violante Placido. In conclusion, I think the big screen adaptation does definitely do justice to the original works, since it manages to link different episodes, giving a sense of completeness to the story, which is enjoyable and not boring at all. The elements that differ from the books allow the audience to better understand the dynamics and the characteristics of every character and situation. Following the enthralling music, the effects and the lively dialogues, they can really feel part of the big family of the jungle.